Welcome to the SwimSwam podcast. I'm your host, Coleman Hodges. I'm here with Ryan and Andy of Franklin College. Guys, how are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Doing great. Can't complain.
Awesome. So just to get the ball rolling, if you guys each want to give me 90 seconds of your swimming background, how you got into the sport, how you're involved now. Andy, maybe we can start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Andy Hendricks. I'm the head coach of the men's and women's program here at Franklin. We're a Division III program in the NCAA and right outside of Indianapolis, so right in the heart of swimming world. I've swam all my life, was a multi-sport athlete growing up. I started swimming competitively when I was 6. My mom got me involved, so have great memories of club swimming as a child. Followed my older brother around and was anxious to beat him, and that just developed a competitive spirit in me over time. And I played a lot of sports, but swimming was always part of my life, and enjoyed it immensely. Swam all the way up through the levels, and had a lot of success as an age grouper. But after college went to IU. After college, I went to work in the Fortune 500 and worked in several capacities, and then kind of I always say swimming kind of found me again. I was not looking to become a swim coach, quite frankly, and I was living in Franklin with my family, and it just kind of magically worked out. The athletic director and president at Franklin College, as well as a local high school swimming coach, knew of my background in the sport a little bit and asked me if I wanted to start a collegiate swim program. That's how this all began. And I joke because I think the first 1 or 2 times I think I said no, because as all of you watching right now know the dedication that we all have to this sport and what it takes to be successful. I don't think at the time I thought I could invest all that, but the stars and moons aligned. It's been great ever since. We just finished our 11th year, and we've had a lot of great times and good success in a short amount of time.
Awesome. Ryan.
Yeah, so Coach Hendricks kind of nailed everything down about Franklin. So for me, I'm from Queens, New York. I started swimming competitively with LaGuardia Twisters, little plug back there. And that was around, I was 14, 15 at the time, swam throughout high school. Then I swam at Adelphi University for 4 years, D2 school up in New York. And then I graduated there in 2018. I went on to get my master's in exercise science last year, actually, before I came to Franklin this year. So I graduated with that degree in 2019, and then I was not done with swimming. The swimming bug still had me. I needed to be around the sport in some capacity. I wasn't swimming anymore. I was kind of lost for a bit, right? I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to go into the health field kind of, but right now I'm really kind of in love with swimming, and I still want to be around that. So I reached out to Coach Hendricks, and thankfully he liked me a little bit at least, and he took me out to Franklin, and it's been a great year. I'm really enjoying the campus, the whole community, even outside of swimming, outside of the school itself. Franklin's great. So for me, being a New York City kid coming out to Franklin, it was definitely a bit of a culture shock at first, for sure. But it's great, and I've loved every minute of it.
Nice. So take me through you guys' previous season at Franklin. What the ups and downs, how you kind of finished your season, and how this quarantine period kind of blended with your postseason, if it did.
Well, I guess I'll start and let Ryan kind of add on. First of all, bringing Ryan on board was a big step for us because of his energy and passion. He made an immediate difference. And for the first time, I felt like, we were kind of singing from the same hymn book, as they say, and was able to make a difference with our athletes. So for several years, I was running the program, basically solo, which is not uncommon in a lot of Division III programs, both in swimming and in other sports. we were very excited about the season. We were coming off of 2 conference championships, both the men and the women, from the previous year. And of course, our goal was to defend those titles. Our men had won 6 straight conference championships. We had switched conferences in the middle there. Our women had won 4 straight at the time. And we were on a 3-year winning streak of undefeated seasons on our women's team too. I mean, we hadn't lost a swim meet in 3 years, a dual meet. So, of course, our goals all included that, all included that level of success, getting back to nationals. We, enrollment wise, we were the smallest institution represented at nationals. I think the next smallest institution might have been the Coast Guard, if I'm not mistaken. So, just
how big are you guys?
We were right around 1,000 students.
Okay.
Yeah. So for us, going to nationals is a big deal, and we not only wanted to go, we wanted to compete. And last year we sent five swimmers to D3s last year down in Greensboro. And this year we were very determined to get those 5 back and then add some others. And we were successful, and we were taking 5 again. 4 females and a male had qualified this year. And I think that the way we did it as well is we didn't, quite rest the same going into conference. We were holding some back for nationals, and we were excited because we had been there, done that. This group of young women were now juniors. They were there the year before. That some of those nerves were more settled, and we were swimming fast. I mean, the practice the week before, and I serve on the NCAA committee. So I, of course, am in all those discussions as we were deciding, are we going to have this or not? As a committee, we're sitting there and planning everything and contingencies and what's this going to look like. And so I'm having that conversation on one side as administrator, and on the other hat, I'm thinking, man, I've got these young women and this young man that are really wanting to go, and we know they have a big chance here. So when that happened, it of course was it was devastating. I mean, it was devastating for them. I felt for me, it's all about the personal side of this. I mean, we get very connected to our student athletes, and lifelong relationships. I've been in several weddings of my swimmers. I've seen them have their own children themselves, and those moments are wonderful. So to get so connected with them, and then to see this happen, it was tough. It was tough. And a couple of them have recently written some reflective statements as a kind of human interest, I guess call it just a writing sample for our own website here on campus. And to read some of those statements now, it really kind of gets to you a little bit because of what they knew they could accomplish. And as I say, memories that'll never be made, right? You can't get those back. And I will say the blessing for us is that we did get a full season other than that versus the spring sports. And, none of them were seniors. So, our group can all come back, and, God willing, we all get to. But we had a great year, wonderful year. And we hope that we can then springboard, on that next year.
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of just in the same token there, it was a great year. I mean, 2 conference championships, one that essentially came down to the last day on the men's side. So it was great to be a part of that, and great to kind of see people kind of go through adversity in a meet like that. So as far as that it was great. But then in terms of going into nationals, we kept getting faster and faster. The ladies were just, I mean, they were really kind of picking up on that kind of fast speed training that we were kind of getting into, just because we had that short period of time between a taper and another meet. So we were really trying to keep the speed up, and I mean, things were getting fast. So our minds were only thinking what could happen next week, hopefully this happens. And we were, I mean, as the world was starting to kind of take place with everything, we kind of we're kind of figuring out, well, what are the chances that there's no spectators? And then that was announced. And then, all right, well, we're going to go, but there's no spectators. And then we kind of asked the girls, like, oh, well, like, what do you guys think about no spectators? And they were like, oh, it's fine. Let's just swim. Like, let's just do it. But then obviously things kind of went downhill from there. And I mean, it's tough because what do you say, right? There's nothing that you can say. It's just, oh, well, it sucks, right? Like, you just couldn't get to do it, and it's out of everyone's hands. But I guess on the bright side, like Coach was kind of alluding to, that they're all coming back next year, and we all have the ability to do it again, and just know that there's more work to be done, and that nothing changes, right? So I'm just kind of looking forward to next year, really.
Yeah. So I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. So looking forward to next year, as a D, we get the perspective of, like, your typical D1 Power 5 schools.
Yep.
As a D3 school, what is next year looking like, I guess, in a myriad of different ways? It's like a typical D1 school, they're dependent on football. And if football doesn't happen in the fall, it's like the dominoes start falling. Like, what does that look like for you guys being a D3 school of 1,000 students?
Well, it's a great question. I think that, and we are, I sitting on as a cabinet member here is kind of obviously a unique thing. I mean, obviously there aren't a lot of swimming coaches who are sitting on the cabinets of their respective schools. So I do have a little unique perspective in that regard, and I'm in those conversations every day. And we went out with a statement today to all of our students, our prospective students, our families, our faculty and staff, from our president, a video message with our intent to come back. I mean, we have every intent on being back in the fall. But we're going to rely on the professionals here locally, both in Indianapolis and here at Johnson Memorial Health, which is the local hospital, with whom we have a relationship. We're going to rely on them for their advice and their direction in the end. But we fully intend to be here. I will say what I've learned, because like I said, I'm an IU guy. Props to Coach Luce, his group. I mean, they're awesome. Love IU. But, I think what makes us so unique is that we, and especially at a smaller Division III, we are tuition dependent and enrollment dependent, meaning that our athletics are integral to building our enrollment. In other words, you would have a lot of institutions like ours that probably wouldn't exist without athletics. So, on our campus, 35% to 40% sometimes of students are athletes. So in our case, we need it, and we are anxious to get back on campus and have that. So with that said, we are looking at every contingency from, again, and now serving as an athletic director too, I'm sitting in the conference calls, right? So we're a part of the HCAC, the Heartland Collegiate Athletic Conference, and we're sitting in those calls and talking about, well, what is this going to look like? Are we going to have fall football and fall sports? Does that calendar get pushed? That we still have it, but maybe it starts later. All of those things are up in the air right now, but I think everybody wants to be back. Everybody wants to be back. Everybody wants to get going with things, and we're fully moving in that direction. So I don't know what it's going to end up being like. I know that a lot of schools are making – we've heard everything from we're back to everything from, in the California system saying we're all online, right?
Yeah.
Everything's online. They've already said it. And then we've seen everything from schools announcing that if we don't come back in our normal form, then we're closing our doors. I mean, we've heard that across the country. Mm-hmm. So I don't think as an institution we're ready to take either one of those extraneous stances. But we're going to do the right thing and hopefully get back to it and love doing it. So it's tough situation. No one can predict the future right now.
Yeah. So again, bouncing around a little bit. So with that being said, how, maybe Ryan, you can chime in on this one. How are you guys interacting with your student athletes in a time that is so uncertain? It's like you don't know if you're going to be back or not.
Yeah, so I mean, with that, it's actually kind of unique in some ways because you're talking in different ways now, right? So we're talking over text, phone call, FaceTime, Zoom calls. We've had a couple of Zoom calls with our student athletes and with prospective student athletes too, right? With recruits and things of that nature. But I mean, I've been talking to some of our guys maybe more now than I would have if they were on campus, right? And even our ladies as well. So I'm able to kind of reach out to them now more and kind of talk about school and how they're doing with things, to kind of reaching out to them all the time, kind of just being available, and then letting them know to reach out as well, and to kind of reach out to each other so that they can have their own Zoom meetings with their team and kind of hang out like they would normally at dinner or whatever it would be if we were all on campus. But I mean, I think as far as that goes, it's just trying to kind of keep everyone together, let them know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's going to work its way through eventually at some point, and everyone wants to be back, and just kind of let that message be known, and kind of make sure that everyone's staying in shape, right? We're working out in some capacity, and then just kind of looking to make sure that our grades are solid and enjoying summer now, hopefully.
Yeah. So back to more of a maybe commentary looking to the future topic. Again, at D1 schools, they're worrying about scholarships, and we just reported that the NCAA has allowed for a flux in scholarships.
Yep.
Again, from a D3 perspective, what does that look like for you? How is that affecting you? I know you mentioned you are enrollment driven, and there are so many athletes on campus. So how financially, how might that affect you?
Yeah, we're fortunate. I mean, we're one of the few institutions that are actually up in recruiting over a year ago in terms of our freshman class. And I don't mean just swimming. I'm talking about the institution in general. We're actually running about 13% over last year right now. So whereas most institutions, and we break it down by Northeast, Midwest, et cetera, and most institutions in the Midwest are actually below last year. So they're having negative enrollment returns versus a year ago. And we measure that by deposits, the number of deposits that you have. We're fortunate that we're one of the few that are up, and we're excited about that. So for us, I think the outlook, the future is very bright. But of course, if the fall doesn't work out like we're hoping, then who knows what's going to happen. But I think all schools are investing in their prospective students, meaning that, we're certainly giving scholarships, and, we can't do it in the way that Division I's and Division II's can. But, when a student comes to us and applies, here at Franklin College, 100% of the students get scholarships and grant aid to attend here. So every student will receive some form of financial aid. And that's a combination of both state aid, federal aid, and institutional aid. So we look at every student individually. We work with every student individually. And I think that has been a big benefit to us. And quite frankly, our geographic location, we're only 20 miles outside of Indianapolis. And that geographic location, I think, this is kind of a supposition, but I believe that has aided us because, 20% of students, according to some recent studies, changed their mind. They either changed their mind that they weren't going to go to their original school of choice or not going to go to college at all next year. They were going to take a gap year, and because of the side effects and consequences of the coronavirus. So when someone says, well, I'm going to stay a little closer to home, that I think works to advantage of a school like us who's close to a metropolitan type area. So maybe we reaped some reward from that. But I do think that we offer a combination of high athletics and high academics as a private institution. And you couple that with a great geographic location, and maybe that was a recipe for success.
Yeah, I mean,
Go ahead.
so coming from my D2 background, and I have a brother who's swimming in the D1 world as well, and just kind of just being like, so if I was still at Adelphi and I was swimming there during this time, there'd be all this anxiety because you don't know what's going on, right? No one knows if we're going to come back to school. And if you don't go back to school, well, then why would my swimming scholarship still be up for grabs, or why would it still be there? And you're just kind of thinking about these things. Whereas at a school like Franklin, that's just not really a question. Just because you're not on a athletic scholarship, you're here to go to school, and then swimming is kind of a side effect of that. And but you're still getting a good scholarship because of all the funding and all of these different types of things. So I think in that regard, being in the Division III world, it's just a little bit less anxiety when it comes to money, just because it's not so dependent on football or other things happening. Just the school running is going to allow all our sports programs to kind of keep running as well.
So that brings up an interesting point, which is, again, not to be too negative, but sports teams getting cut are big reality right now, and so that isn't. Let me put it in question form. Is that a concern at all for you guys?
No, not at all. Matter of fact, the opposite. As I said, athletics, they work hand in hand. So I hate to say it in terms of we need athletics. It's not that. It's that symbiotic kind of relationship. One almost doesn't exist without the other at an institution like this. And certainly our success is built over, since the 1800s of offering a high level private education. That's where it all stems from. And as Ryan said, being an NCAA athlete is a privilege on top of that. So for us, it doesn't matter because the funding is there. Funding is there anyway, because again, it's tuition driven, not driven through contracts, television agreements and things like that. I mean, we don't get the football revenue, for example, doesn't change here at all. So we aren't dependent on that at all. And I think in this case, in a strange way, it gives us a pretty distinct advantage. We have no fear of cutting sports because we will need every sport we have. And we've seen it already here in Indiana. Unfortunately, we've seen a men's soccer program get cut recently at a Division I institution. We've seen tennis get cut. We've seen swim teams get cut. Well, you probably get the feed every day on the swim programs that are, we love swimming. We have a saying, our team colors here are blue and gold. And we have a saying, bleed blue, swim for gold. It is our moniker of our team. And our team members know what that means beyond the simple phrase. It has a very deep meaning, each part of that phrase. And, to understand the importance of that is great here, but it's bigger than that even. It's so important to us as people of the swimming community that we don't lose swimming programs across the nation. And if it takes each one of us to step up and try to save programs like we've done many times, I could name teams, right, that have been saved over the years because our swimming community as a whole stepped up, right? And we may need more of that. We'll see.
So that brings up an interesting point. So do you guys think that, if a D1 program or the D1 model were to adopt more of a D3 philosophy, whereas you had a lot more students playing sports, do you think that could help? Do you think that model where you guys have 1,000 students and you have 35-40% students are athletes, do you think that model could work on a big scale university and that would make it more secure or just have benefits in general?
I mean, it's all scalable. I mean, an institution of 40,000 students, you're not gonna have 20,000 students, right? Or 15,000 students or athletes, excuse me. to equal any percentage that's going to make that big of a difference. I think that schools will continue to analyze Division I schools and large schools. I shouldn't even just say Division I, but large schools. I think they're going to continue to take a very hard look at the dollars and cents of things. And the SwimSwam had even posted the article that we've all seen, that some of the power conferences had lobbied the NCAA to relax the minimum number of sports. Mm-hmm. And the NCAA, I think, came back with an appropriate response. And it's I don't think possible that you can get to a point at an institution of 10, 20, 30, 40,000 students that athletics is going to be scalable to where it makes enough of a difference financially. So it really is going to be an investment. Is it seen as an investment, and what value does that bring to each institution? I hate to put words on anybody's mouth, because I tell you, even administrators, they are facing some tough times right now. And I don't think nobody sitting in their chair in their office and says, well, I want to cut this sport. I mean, people aren't wanting to cut sports. We as a public love it. We love swimming. We love basketball. We love football. We want to watch it. We want to be part of it. And we want to be fans. And I think that schools will do what they can. And sometimes push comes to shove, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think depending on what happens in the fall, I think all schools are going to have to start kind of figuring out if a enrollment-based model could work. And I'm sure there's people that are way more capable and smarter than myself to figure out those numbers, just because I'm sure there's a lot of numbers that go into that and kind of understanding, well, what works. There's so much money that go into scholarship funding and travel funding and all these different things that all these teams have. And so I think that it's really going to kind of come to probably the tip of the iceberg probably this fall, right? If football goes through, and then that's going to be something that schools and the NCAA as a whole is going to have to kind of look at and kind of see what's going on.
Yeah. So do you think that do you think that students are happier being student athletes? I guess maybe not from a financial perspective, but if you had a bigger percentage at larger universities of students participating in some sort of athletics, do you think that would help them just in general? Providing coaching jobs and providing students with a little more structure. What do you see as the benefits of so many of your students being student athletes?
Your point is well put and well taken. I think it's about engagement. It doesn't have to be about sports. Mm-hmm. I think it's about finding your passions, whether that is being in a choir or being in student government. That is the key to having an immersive experience at your institution, whether that be Franklin College or wherever, is having an immersive experience where you get involved. The more you get involved, the more you're going to be connected. The more you're connected, the more vested interest you have, and then we will be more successful. So because you'll have that support group, and certainly athletics brings that. I mean, we have a very, very close team ourselves, and they support each other in every way. But I will say, on the flip side of that, one of the really awesome things about being an IU student myself, I remember when, Damon Bailey and Calbert Chaney and those guys played the Fab Five at Michigan. I was on the fourth row, as a student. And I mean, I'll never forget that. So the fandom of being a student at a place like that is amazing. And so I don't think you necessarily have to be an athlete, but there are definitely benefits to being one. And you hear people, like I've often asked questions by recruits and prospective students is, how you balance being an athlete and a student at the same time. And honestly, I've always believed you can have your cake and eat it too. You can be great at both. by managing your time and having a good support network. Athletics is wonderful, and if you find the right program, if you connect with the right coach and the right team and the right school, without letting money be the main driver for that decision, and that's the mistake a lot of people make. They let money be the main driver. If you find the right place, you'll have a wonderful experience, and the support network you'll have will give you much more success, no doubt.
Yeah, I mean, so to Coach Hendrick's point there is really kind of just talking about do what you're passionate about, right? So whether that's being a student athlete or not, if I'm ever talking to a family friend or even just a recruit that we have now and they're kind of maybe questioning whether or not they want to swim in college or do a sport in college or whatever it is, well, it's what are you passionate about? I mean, are you going to be miserable going to practice every day and are you truly not going to like it, or are you going to enjoy it and you might have to work hard? It might be a little difficult, but at the end of the day, when you have that meet in February, you're just like the happiest person in the world, right? Because all that hard work paid off. So just kind of finding your passion and whatever that is, like Coach said, being in the choir, being in a play, or whatever it is. I mean, and the great thing about a school like Franklin is you can do both. We had a student this year that was in a play and was also a swimmer. So you have the ability to do both at a school like this too, just because of that small kind of family environment that we have all throughout campus. But I personally would always say be a student athlete. It's great. Sports are great. College sports are awesome. I enjoy it. It's in my family now at this point. So that's my personal opinion, but I love sports.
Well, awesome. I think that's a good place to end. Thank you so much, Andy and Ryan, for your time.
Yeah.
This was a truly enlightening conversation.
Yeah, it's great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to you, Coleman, to do a practice in pancakes back a while ago, but I guess this is, with what we got right now, I'll take this. This is great. I love SwimSwam and what you guys are doing, so this is awesome.
Yeah, SwimSwam is wonderful. Keep doing what you're doing, Coleman. It's great. We're all watching. We're all paying attention. So
I very much appreciate that, and trust me, I am the first person to tell you that as soon as I can start getting out there and eating pancakes again, I'm doing it.
All right, man. Spread the word. Go Grid. Go Grid. Bleed blue. Swim for gold. We'll see you guys.
There you go.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you. I'll see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.